Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining the Kuali Research February Hot Topics webinar. I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Andrea Martin, and I'm a trainer and client support analyst here at UCSD in the Office of Contracts and Grants. If this is your first time attending one of our monthly Hot Topic webinars, we try to keep them under 30 minutes, and our goal with this webinar series is to go over any updates as well as some of the common questions that we are receiving from UCSD's Quality Research Help Desk. It's just so we can show you all some of the best practices and how to perform those tasks. And if you have any questions as I'm going through the topics, please feel free to type your questions into the chat. Pam Talarita, who is also on the training and client support team, will answer them and chime in as well. And we will also have time for questions at the end of the class too, of the webinar. Perfect. So let's just review the agenda for today. We're just going to be reviewing a few different things, just some updates and reminders. First, we'll discuss the 2 new foreign engagement questions that have been added to the Principal Investigators Research Questionnaire. There was a communication that was sent out regarding this update that did go out to both research administrators as well as principal investigators, but we'll review it here today as well. And then we'll also review updating the outgoing subaward description and explanation fields for subaward modifications. And then lastly, we'll also just cover where you can find our newly added eCourses. Perfect, so let's jump into it. I'm in our quality research staging environment inside of a proposal. And I'm just going to navigate to our key personnel section where I've added myself as a principal investigator. Perfect, and then from the drop down, I'm just in this last research questions tab. Okay, and then so here you'll see up at the top, we have the 2 new foreign engagement questions that were added that PIs are required to answer on their proposals. These were just added to ensure that things such as all foreign financial support, foreign conflicts of commitment or interest, and any confidential materials are disclosed so they can be included in the review process. If your PI does need some guidance on these, there is additional information for them. And the second question, if you click on that eye icon, there's some more details for further clarification and guidance if needed, as well as if they have WalkMe installed, they'll have these 2 smart tips with information too. Sorry about that. My layering's a little weird in the stage environment right now. But they will have those available to them if needed. But I did want to point out that if a proposal was created after these 2 questions were added, which would have been before January 21st, before 5 p.m., and it hasn't been submitted yet, you will see this pop-up window, or you might have already seen it already, just asking if you would like to copy all of the principal investigators' answers from the old questionnaire to the new one. Then only the 2 new questions that were added would need to be answered. Or you can choose to not copy over any of the answers from the previous version, making it so every question in the new questionnaire will need to be answered. And then after answering that pop-up, it is just recommended that you click on that blue Notify PI button. That way the principal investigator can answer their updated questionnaire and they're notified. And then for proposals that have already been submitted for approval, no action is needed unless the proposal is returned for revisions by the SPO or recalled by the research administrator. Perfect. Pam, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you explained that perfectly, and nobody has any questions in the chat.
Okay, perfect. So next, I'm just going to jump into a subaward. Okay, let me open that. Okay, so I just opened up an active subaward in our stage environment. So that just means that it's been approved by the subaward team. And now since it's active, modifications can be made. And we just wanted to remind users that when submitting modifications, every time you submit mods, it's very important that everything you are updating is outlined in the description and explanation fields in this first subaward tab inside of the subaward. Just because if you don't know what you're doing, the subaward team isn't going to know what they need to be reviewing for approval. We've just been noticing that sometimes modifications are submitted, but the description from when the initial subaward was created is left in, or descriptions from older modifications are left in. Or sometimes the description and explanation fields actually are updated, but only one part of the modification has been noted when more modifications were actually made. And so it's just really important that everything is outlined so the subaward team knows what they are looking to review and approve. So just very important. And then, so for instance, if you wanted to like make a financial modification, you can note that in the description, but then even in the explanation, just take it a little further and just kind of note exactly what you are doing. Another thing that we wanted to point out too is if you need to update either the requisitioner or supplier site ID on the subaward or both, and you also have a financial modification, we recommend that you do those separately and submit the supplier site ID or requisitioner mod first. Then once that's approved, submit a separate modification for financial updates. This is just because the requisitioner and or supplier site ID updates, they're a lot faster to review and approve compared to other modifications such as financial modifications. And then let's say, for instance, if you need to submit an invoice, if you're waiting for a requisitioner or supplier site ID update to be approved before you submit an invoice. And there was a financial modification that was submitted with that. It's just going to take a lot longer for it to be reviewed and approved. But if you submit them separately and wait for your requisitioner or supplier site ID update to be approved first, and then you submit your other mod, it's just going to be a lot faster of a process. So this is especially important too if you have a time-sensitive supplier site ID and requisitioner modification that will need approval. So definitely just keep that in mind when you are making modifications. You want to make sure that you are really detailing any updates that you're making. And then again, if you have a supplier site ID or requisitioner update, just do those separate if you have more modifications too. Perfect. And then if you do submit a modification and you realize that you forgot to update the description and explanation fields, that's totally fine. All you need to do is just utilize that recall button and the subaward actions tab. Perfect. Did you want to add anything, Pam?
Sorry, I couldn't get myself unmuted. No, great job. And let's see, we do have one question in the chat. It says, whenever we have time, I have a question regarding modifications versus requisitioner submission. And that is from Karen. Karen, do you want to unmute yourself, or do you want to, or did we already answer your question?
Hi, I'm unmuted now. So thank you for giving me a little bit of space. My internet is not the best, so I might have to ask you to repeat your answers because sometimes it gets a little caught up. So I hope you don't mind.
No.
So I should explain a little bit of my situation. I recently submitted like 7 modifications for 7 subawards. And at the same time, I changed the requisitioner to be myself, and previously it was my PI. I did not know that changing the requisitioner will also change the approver when submitting invoices. So now I need to change the requisitioner back to my PI. My PI is also aware of this, so that's no problem. I need to change the requisitioner back to my PI in order for her to approve the invoices, but I don't know if I should wait until all of the modifications are approved and all set and balance is reflected in the front page of the Subaward, or can I just submit them? I guess my question is, if I submit that request to change it to my PI, if I do that right now, would that affect the order of approving modifications?
Okay.
That's my question.
Have these modifications have not been approved, right? They have not been
They're
finalized.
in the process.
Okay, so that's actually good news, because you submitted because you submitted the requisitioner update with the modification, then the PI is actually still the requisitioner to approve invoices. So if you are not waiting for those invoices to be paid, or if you're not waiting on the modification, like the financial modification money to be added to the subaward, so that those invoices can be paid, then you're good. If you have the available amount to pay the invoice, they should be in your PI's action list for him to approve those invoices, because you included the requisitioner update with the modification and it hasn't been approved yet. So like if you opened one of your subawards, if you went to the subaward search and you, put in your subaward ID, and at the bottom you clicked on final, you would be able to see the last final instance of your subaward, and that should show you that the requisitioner has not been updated yet. It's still your PI. And we can work with you separately on this too. If you want to set up a time with us, why don't you just send me an email? I'll put my email in the chat, and we can just do a quick Zoom, and I can show you how to do this, what you're looking for. And I just put my email in the chat. Thank you so much. No problem.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Pam. Okay. Perfect. And then it doesn't look like we have any other questions in the chat. So then just the last item on our agenda, let me go into the UC Learning Center. So we've been working on adding eCourses to the Learning Center. That way you can take all these trainings at your convenience. I think that these are really great to take just even as refreshers if you've taken our live trainings in the past, or if you have any new hires in your departments, please definitely recommend these classes to them. And they're really great too, because you can watch them as many times as you want and stop and rewind as you need to. So currently, so far, we have 2 quality research specific classes in the Learning Center. We have our Introduction to Quality Research Proposal Development class, and we have an Outgoing Subawards and MCA class too. So if I just click on search, and start typing like outgoing subawards, our class is going to come up. And it is this first e-course that appears. To make it easier though for you all, we did add links to these courses directly from our website on Blink. So if you go to our research administration training page on Blink, go into our offerings and resources. I'm going to click into the UCSD Kuali Research Training section. And I have our 2 e-courses linked here. And we are going to work on more so we can add more there for you. We usually send out a communication when a new class is added, but definitely keep a lookout on here too. We also added a few e-courses for just our general research administration training courses. So we have a few RA essential classes that are up and also linked here too. So we have an e-course for how to read a solicitation, and the e-course link and the job aid is linked at the end of the description. We also have the Toolbox Part 1 pre-award systems, tools and resources class up, as well as the language of RA and the people building relationships in the RA lifecycle. So those are all up with links, and I'll make sure to send you all a link to these web pages just so you can reference them later and recommend them to people. But yeah, super helpful. And like I said, we are continuing to work to put more e-courses on the Learning Center for you all. Perfect. Do you want to add anything, Pam? I think that's.
No, that sounds good. I do want to answer a couple questions that were in the chat that I was responding to. I think everybody can see how I responded to Yoli Ragonen. You can change the requisitioner as many times as you want, as long as there's not another modification en route. You can update the requisitioner to whoever you want at any time. For Dee's question about how long does it take for a subaward mod to be approved? You know, it depends on several things. It can depend on what the backlog is and how many the subaward, the ancillary agreement team has in their queue. It can depend on the kind of modification that it is. A no cost extension may go quicker than adding funds. It also, yeah, it really can, it just depends. Right now, I think it's taking a minimum of 2 weeks, and it could take up to 2 months. You know, it also depends on the subrecipient site and how quick they are with responding with a signature for the executed agreement. So I would suggest that if you have, if you're worried about it or you want an update, just send an email or submit a ticket to subawards@ucsd.edu, and they will give you an update.
Perfect. Thank you, Pam.
And this is Nancy. I'm on Andy and Pam's team. I wanted to add just one more thing about changing the requisitioner. One piece of advice is before you change the requisitioner, make sure that you clear out your actions list of any items for that subaward. So if there is an invoice that is pending approval, you're going to want to make sure that you approve that before you update the requisitioner, because that does not transfer over when you update the requisitioner. So if you are the requisitioner, that stays in your queue. And then what happens is if you haven't cleared your action list for those things, those will get stuck. So we can help you get them unstuck, but it's a lot easier if you clear your queue and your action list before you update the requisitioner.
Thank you, Nancy. Those are good reminders. And then just again, to remind you all, if you do have any questions for our help desk, if you type in Kuali Research on Blink, we're the first page that comes up, and all of our help desk information is here. You can submit a ticket to us via email or directly through our services and support research portal. And under our resources section here on this page, we also have a direct link to our knowledge base articles. Perfect. All right, I don't think I see. Oh, looks like we just have one question in the chat. Once an amendment has been fully executed, is there anything further we need to do, for instance, in Oracle? Do you know the answer to that question, Pam?
I don't know the answer to that. As far as I know, there's nothing that you need to do in Oracle. If you have your account ID and task number updated in your Subaward, everything that invoices against that will automatically, be taken out in Oracle. But for financial questions, you really need to talk to your analyst or your person contact in business financial systems.
Perfect. Thank you, Pam. Looks like we don't have any other questions. Thanks so much, everyone, for hopping on today, and we hope you have a great day. Thanks, everyone.